Welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here again with Mike Meredith. Mike, how are you doing this fine Thursday evening?
I'm doing good, man. A lot to unpack here for NFL, college football, and more.
Yeah, we have quite a bit to talk about, so let's get right to it. Starting with the NFL, about to kick off here in a few minutes. The Cowboys are hosting the Seahawks. Dallas is a 9.5 point favorite in this game. Um, Obviously, Dallas right now, they've been performing extremely well. Dak Prescott in particular has been really, really good. And as of late, the Seahawks have been struggling a couple losses in games where they were favored pretty heavily. Um, and they were favored by the Rams, and then uh, just barely edging out the Commanders. But I'm gonna take Dallas in this game. Obviously, they've been performing a hell of a lot better this year. I know Seattle's a pretty decent team. They're still obviously in the playoff hunt. That said, though, Dallas is just the all-around better team right now. They've been performing very, very well. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Dallas here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dallas as well. It's tough though because Dallas, if you look at their schedule, like almost all their wins have been against bad teams like Washington, the Giants, Carolina. So every time they've had a big game this year, it seems like they've kind of fell flat with like the Eagles, the 49ers. But Seahawks definitely have been on a little bit of a downward spiral recently, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's just Seattle just lately just has not been able to perform that well, and just having close games with teams that they're way better than. It's just not been looking good for them. So New Orleans will host Detroit. Detroit is a 4.5 point favorite in this game. Uh, they're looking for a comeback. Couple bad weeks now for the Lions. Obviously, losing to Green Bay on Thanksgiving is a big, tough blow. Almost losing to the Bears. Just not getting the performances out of this team that we need, especially Jared Goff. Hendon Hooker has been, enabled for practice, though, which is good to see. Obviously, he's not going to play any snaps this year, but he'll be able to start practicing here soon, so that's going to be nice for him. But that said, I'm going to roll with the Lions here. The Saints have been struggling a little bit. They're still in this division fight with Atlanta, but I believe now they're tied for that division with Atlanta. But I think this is a week Detroit's going to get things right. The defense especially needs to start getting things right. But yeah, I think Detroit just overall has a better team too on both sides of the ball. But just this 10-day break for them has definitely helped, I think. So I think that will, speak into the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Detroit's going to win this one. Saints are pretty rocky as it is, and I mean, I know Detroit's been not great the last few games, so hopefully they have a bounce back week. I know it was a short week last week with Thanksgiving games, so hopefully with the long week, the long rest, they can regroup and uh, take a look at not turning the ball over 6 times in 5 quarters.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll, Jared Goff will take care of the ball like he was, all last year pretty much, and to start this year. New England will host the Chargers. LA is a 5.5 point favorite in this game. Look, both these teams are really bad, but New England's one of the worst teams in the league right now. Mac Jones is terrible. Um, Bill Belichick, I think he's done after this year. I'm gonna roll with the Chargers here. They're a lot better built on both sides of the ball than New England. Obviously, Justin Herbert's one of the better young quarterbacks in the league. Mac Jones is just absolutely terrible. So yeah, I got to roll with LA here. They have a pretty decent defense as well. So yeah.
Yeah, speaking about coaches that may be done, I truly believe if New England wins this game, Brandon Staley won't even be on the flight home, which I really hope so. I really hope New England wins for that reason because I just get him out of here, man. I do think the Chargers will win, but in my mind, I'm kind of hoping that New England pulls it out just because, like I said, I think if they lose to this New England team, Brandon Staley is going to be gone.
I mean, he's gone after this year no matter what, right?
He
Like,
is. I mean, I would think, but I mean, you would think last year when he blew a 27 point lead in the playoffs that they would have fired him then, or the year before that when he choked against the Raiders and missed the playoffs. It's like, he's done so much shit that I wouldn't put anything past the Chargers front office.
yeah, no, I mean, look, he's gone after this year. What if after the season ends, we're gonna do a whole thing on coaches that are gone, or actually, really towards the end of the season, just coaches that are gonna be gone, coaching carousel, all that stuff. We'll get into that when that time comes. Pittsburgh will be hosting Arizona. Pittsburgh a 5.5 point favorite in this game. And Pittsburgh's going to win. I mean, they have overall a much better team. Um, they have a much better system defensively. They have a good offense that can at least produce some sort of points. Arizona just can't do anything on either side of the ball. They have one of the worst defenses in the league. Kyler Murray, even though he's healthy now, it's not making much of a difference at all to that offense. So yeah, I think Pittsburgh wins this one. I'm pretty sure they'll cover that 5.5 as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Pittsburgh, man, they're going to be looking pretty dang good, man. It's going to be a crazy last few weeks for them trying to fight in this division. I don't think they're going to win. I think Baltimore's going to take it, but they're going to probably finish in second.
Yeah, I think so. Tennessee is hosting Indianapolis. Indianapolis is a 1 point favorite in this game. Look, the Titans beat Indy on the road earlier this year. It was a very gritty game. I called that one saying that Tennessee's going to win this game by a wide margin. I'm going to say that again this week. I think this is the type of game, Tennessee thrives in. It's at home, so it's an even better environment for them. So I think they'll be better than Indianapolis. I know Indianapolis has been playing a lot better this year than really anyone thought they would be. But Jonathan Taylor's out for at least 2 weeks. Gardner Minshew is not it, dude. And the defense is still good, but I don't know, man. There's a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball for Indy. I think Tennessee can really take advantage of everything that's going on, especially with that Colts offense right now in terms of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, with Jonathan Taylor, being beat up, and the Titans sort of thriving in those close game environments. I think that I'm gonna go with the Titans here too.
Houston is hosting Denver. Houston's a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Look, both these teams have been playing really well lately. Denver, I believe, has the longest active win streak out of any team right now, outside of Philly, of course. That said, Denver's been playing obviously out of their mind. Houston, likewise. C.J. Stroud is one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Obviously, he's clearly Rookie of the Year. I think you would agree with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like this game to me, it's a toss up. I mean, both these teams have played really, really good. That said, I think I'm gonna go with Houston here. I don't know if they get to that 3.5. This is gonna be a really, really close game. I think. I mean, both these teams, like I said, have been really, really good as of late. So I'm gonna roll with Houston here. Don't know if they get to that 3.5 though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close one, man. Both these teams are doing pretty good. I know that Houston just lost last week to Jacksonville, but they've been one of the more consistent teams this year, I would say. They've been putting up some quality wins. Broncos, though, are looking good. I hope that the Broncos start doing bad here because they got the Lions coming up and don't want them being hot when they face the Lions. So I'm going to roll with the Texans.
The Jets will be hosting the Falcons. Atlanta, a 2-point favorite in this game. Look, both of these defenses are in the top 10 in the league statistically. Um, Atlanta's offense, you can't trust them with Desmond Shitter, but, they have Tim Boyle on the other side with the Jets. This is going to be a real low-scoring game. Both these offenses are trash, and they're both facing pretty damn good defenses. I think Atlanta wins. This is going to be a really close game. This is going to be a very, very boring game, but Atlanta will probably win this game. But, very low-scoring, game here. Very close as well.
Yeah, I think that my man Young Ho is going to carry Atlanta to this victory. Most accurate kicker in NFL history now, for y'all that don't know. But yeah, I think this is going to be just defensive, special teams, field goal battle all the way. And I'm going to roll with Atlanta here.
Yeah, it's going to be very low scoring game. I don't even necessarily want to call it a defensive battle. It's just more like the offense is sucking. The Commanders will host the Dolphins. Dolphins are a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Look, Sam Howell has no help in front. He is one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now. I mean, he's been playing very, very well despite being sacked a billion times this year, it seems like. That said, Miami is starting to string together some road wins, which they desperately need. That offense, obviously, is still one of the best in the league. Very explosive between Tua and Tyreek. Those two have just been connecting all year, and it's paid off extremely well for Miami. I think Miami wins this game. I'm pretty sure they cover the 9.5 too. Washington has nothing up front anymore, especially after trading, Sweat and Chase Young. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with Miami here, and they cover that 9.5, no problem.
Yeah, I think so too, man. They're just one of the better teams right now. I mean, that offense is just going to go too crazy, man, for Washington with no rushing defense, no pass defense, pass rushers. It's just going to be tough, man.
Yeah, they really have nothing, especially on really on both sides of the ball. But that defense now, especially without those two edge rushers, just completely horrible. The Buccaneers host the Panthers. Tampa Bay a 5-point favorite in this game. This is the week Tampa Bay finally turns it around after a big, losing skid. The Panthers just blow, man. Plain and simple. I think they're gonna stay at one win this entire year. The Bucs just have a much better team overall. I know they haven't been playing very well lately, but this Panthers team is just straight up horrible, especially offensively. When you have a midget as your quarterback, it's really, really hard to do anything. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Bucs here, and they cover that 5.
Yeah, I think they're going to cover too. This is just a horrible performance here from Carolina this year. What a waste of a draft pick, man. I mean, just absolutely awful. Carolina basically just going to be thrown in the towel, even though they have nothing to play for, no pick or anything.
What a waste of 2 draft picks, really. If you think about it, they traded up this year to get Bryce Young, and they ended up being absolutely terrible. They should have just waited for C.J. Stroud. Honestly, I think the Texans were going to take. I think they would have been forced to take Bryce Young at that point. But yeah, big game this week. The top 2 in the NFC will be facing off. The Eagles will be hosting the 49ers. San Francisco is actually favored in this game by 3. And I'm going to roll with the Niners in this game. The Eagles have been cutting it very close with some pretty bad teams lately. They're getting the job done, but they need to start stepping up. I think the Niners, this pass rush now, is going to really start hurt this Eagles uh, offensive line. I think the Niners will win this game. I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game. This, both defenses are pretty damn good. So I think it's going to be a nice defensive battle here. But it could be the opposite too. We could both see both offenses explode for 40 points each. But I think this is going to be a low-scoring defensive battle. The Niners, I think, will just edge out the Eagles just barely, and the Eagles will get their second loss of the season.
Yeah, I talked about this in the Tuesday episode, but this is the first time in the Super Bowl era that a team who was 10-1 is a 3-point underdog, or three or more point underdog going into a game. You would think 10-1, man. I mean, how are they not favored? But San Francisco's just that team, man. They have everything going right now. They're back hot again. I feel like they've played some really good football, and the Eagles have been winning, but they've been really cutting it close. I mean, it took a 60-yard field goal to just tie the game against Buffalo. Uh, you know, I think that the 49ers come out and win this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the best game of the weekend for the NFL. This is going to be a really, really fun game to watch. The Rams will be hosting the Browns. The Rams are actually favored by 3.5 in this game. That said, I'm gonna pick the Browns here. I think overall, they have obviously a really good defense. The offense obviously has a ton of question marks. I mean, but this Rams defense has a lot of question marks as well. Stafford has been somewhat decent as of late too. So especially last week, he played a really really good game last week. But I think the Browns will win here. I think this is going to be another one of those low scoring games. But I think this Browns defense will be able to maybe get some points for them, or at least get the Browns into a short field, and that's how the Browns are going to end up winning this game.
Yeah, I think the Rams. They had a big week last week, and they were facing the Cardinals, so not much going on there. But the Browns have had to find some creative ways to stay in and win with Deshaun going out for the year. So I think that they will win this one, but I think it's going to be closer, though, than most people are expecting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people really expect. But I mean, Vegas kind of agrees it's going to be, it's a 3.5 point spread. But I think really the Browns can win, but it's going to be, a last second field goal or something. The Packers will be hosting the Chiefs. Kansas City, a 6-point favorite in that game. That's Sunday night football for you right there. I think the Chiefs are going to win. Green Bay blows. I mean, yeah, they got a nice win over Detroit last week, but they got a lucky win. It was not a good game for Detroit. Jordan Love was, he's been playing decently the last, 3 or 4 weeks now, but I just don't think that offense is going to stand up to this Chiefs defense, who is, statistically a top 10 defense this year. The offense will do just enough as well against this pretty average Packers defense. Chiefs win. They cover that 6 as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs here, too. Hopefully they beat down the Packers, man, because that was just tough last week. And yeah, I think the Packers they had everything clicking. It seemed like in the Lions game, the defense and Jordan Love had one of his better games of the year. I don't think they're going to be able to keep it up for Kansas City. So I think Kansas City is going to win.
And lastly, Monday night, the Jags host the Bengals. Jacksonville, a 8.5-point favorite in this game. The Bengals, no Joe Burrow, obviously. That offense just can't do anything without him. The defense has not been able to really hold up. Jacksonville has been playing really good football again, really all year, despite that slow start that they've had. But Jacksonville, I think they're going to win. I don't think they get to that 8.5 points. I think maybe a touchdown at the very most they win by. But I think Jacksonville just overall better team. The offense obviously they have a competent quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. The defense is pretty damn good as well. I just, if Joe Burrow was healthy, I'd probably pick the Bengals in this game, but I'm gonna have to roll with Jacksonville here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jacksonville. I do think it's gonna be closer than that 8.5 too. Um, I think that the Bengals still have a ton of talent, even though the quarterback is not Joe Burrow right now. They can still do something, but I don't think they're gonna win. I think Jacksonville will win the game though.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, Jacksonville's probably gonna win this game. If Joe Burrow was healthy, I'd choose Cincinnati, but yeah. So that wraps up your NFL games for this week. We're gonna now head over to to college football, and we're gonna preview. I mean, every single conference championship, even the ones that no one cares about, like the MAC and the Conference USA, and all and the Sun Belt and all that stuff, just to you know give you some more content than just a couple games. So we're gonna start over in the Conference USA. Number 24 Liberty will be hosting New Mexico State. Liberty looking to stay undefeated for this entire year. They're an 11-point favorite in this game. New Mexico State has had a pretty damn good season, though. They're 10-3 coming into this one. That said, I think Liberty's going to win here. The one thing that Liberty does extremely well, that I've seen this year, is they don't turn the ball over much at all. And they force a lot of turnovers from their opponents, which you love to see that out of a team. Granted, Liberty hasn't really played any good teams, but overall, I think they're the much better team. They're much better equipped for this game. I think Liberty wins, and they cover that 11 points.
Yeah, I mean Liberty sneaking into the top 25 at the end of the year. They they've definitely shown that they can win the games, man. I mean, undefeated. I'm gonna go with them.
Over to the Pac-12, number 3 Washington versus number 5 Oregon. Oregon currently sits at a 10-point favorite for this game. And look, I think Oregon's going to win this game. They are out for blood against Washington after losing to them on the road earlier this year. Um, I think, you know, Penix has been very good. Bo Nix has been also very good. They're obviously the two Heisman favorites right now, but I think Oregon's going to win this game. I don't think they get to that 10-point spread there, though. I think this is going to be a very close game. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be very, very fun to watch, and that's tomorrow night. So this is going to be a very good game, but I think Oregon's going to win this, and it's going to shake up the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's crazy to think that, I mean, they're that much of a favorite. I mean, they just been one of the hottest teams in college football right now. And I do think that they're going to be out for revenge because that was a crazy game they had with Washington. They almost won that game. Oregon probably has the better team talent wise right now, and Washington's been cutting it super close with like a lot of their games, while Oregon's been pretty dominant. So I think Oregon's going to win, but I don't think they cover the 10-point spread. I think it's closer than that because I feel like a lot of people have kind of lost their faith in Washington. In Florida State as well. We'll get to them. Another team that people have lost a lot of faith in because of injuries, but I think that Oregon will win, but it's going to be a pretty close game.
Yeah, just for reference, Washington was a 3.5-point favorite when they faced off earlier this year, and Oregon is a 10-point favorite right now. Just that tells you just how much things have changed since they played each other. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be a hell of a game to watch. Saturday night, number 16 Iowa and number 2 Michigan will face off here in Indianapolis. I unfortunately won't be able to attend the game this year, but Michigan is a 22-point favorite in this game right now. And the line opened up at 24. But the over-under's at a 35.5. So you do the math on how much Iowa's predicted to score here. But yeah, I think Michigan's going to win this game. They have one of the best defenses in the country. So does Iowa, but Iowa can't score at all. Um, they're probably the most fraudulently ranked team in the country because one, the Big Ten West is garbage, and they can't win against any halfway decent school. So I think Michigan wins here. I think they cover that 22 points as well.
Yeah, I the only way Iowa scores points is on defense. They get a pick six or something, man. Because I don't think that offense scores a single point. They can't even score against bad teams, let alone like Michigan. Like they're gonna they're gonna be bad, man. Uh, yeah, I don't even see them reaching 10 points. Maybe three. Maybe they get a pick and they're set at like the 20-yard line and they kick a field goal. Uh, but yeah, I think it's gonna be rough going for them.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see something like a 45 to 3, 45 to 7 final score. I mean, that offense is. I mean, I think the only time they're gonna score is in garbage time. Uh,
Yeah, honestly, when they pull their starters out, yeah.
yeah. Once Michigan pulls out JJ McCarthy, because they will pull him out to save him for the playoffs. And same with basically all their starters. Yeah. For the Big 12 championship, number 7 Texas versus number 18 Oklahoma State. Texas is a 15.5 point favorite in this game. Texas is back. They're winning the Big 12 as they leave the Big 12 to head to the SEC. Um, they're going to be well equipped to head into the SEC. I don't think they're going to do much in the SEC. I think they'll still get 8-9 wins a year, but this is going to be a good send off for Texas in this Big 12 championship game. I think they win. I don't know if they're going to cover that 15.5. They have been cutting it kind of close with some teams lately. Obviously, last week, against Texas Tech was a huge blowout win, but Texas Tech is terrible, so it doesn't really matter. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, they've been pretty good this year. Very sneaky good. But I just don't think they're going to be enough to beat Texas this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think Texas got this locked up. Um, 2 touchdown win definitely possible here. I think for sure though they're gonna win this game. Just a better team than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's lost to some pretty crazy teams and hasn't been doing that well recently.
Yeah, I just think Texas, they have an overall better, well, everything. Uh, to the MAC, Toledo and Miami of Ohio will face off. Toledo looking to win like another consecutive MAC title again. They have very good, consistent QB play from uh, what's his name? From DeQuan Finn, who's in like year 77 or whatever in that program. Like he's been there forever. Um, Toledo's an 8 point favorite in this game. Miami's had a really good season, but I think Toledo much better team. Obviously, like I said, much better consistent QB play from them. So I think Toledo wins here. I don't think that they're going to cover that 8 points. So I think Miami's going to keep it really close. They have a really explosive offense, which is exciting to see, and their defense is pretty good too. That said, I just think Toledo just overall better team on both sides of that ball.
Yeah, I think so too. Toledo has been um, pretty pretty solid this year, and I think that they have a lot of promise, and they 8 point favorite in this game. I think they're gonna take this one.
To the Mountain West, it'll be UNLV versus Boise State. Boise State is a 2.5 point favorite in this game. UNLV has played really good this year. I mean, they have been very consistent. Obviously, their biggest loss this year was to Michigan, but it is Michigan. Um, but that said, they have been beating a lot of good teams. Boise State has they're 7-5, right? They're coming into this game hoping to well, I thought they would be the underdog in this game, but we ended up with Boise State being favorited here. I think UNLV is gonna win this game though. They have a better offense. I think the defenses are kind of equal with each other. But I just think UNLV's offense will be a little bit better, and that'll just edge them out. I think it's going to be obviously extremely close. Vegas seems to agree, but I think UNLV will pull off the upset win here.
Yeah, this is tough. I really like both these teams, especially Boise State. I like, of course, the blue field. It's gonna be tough though, man. I think UNLV, they've had some solid wins. They beat Air Force earlier in the year, who was ranked. So I'm gonna roll with them.
The SEC championship game, it'll be number 8 Bama versus number 1 Georgia. Georgia is favorited by the Devils number 5.5. And you know what that means when it's a 5.5 point favorite. The underdog almost always wins. I really hope Georgia wins this game. I do. Bama is a zombie program at this point. They just won't die for some reason. Man, this is ugly. I hate seeing that 5.5 because I really would pull. I really want to see Georgia win this game just because fuck Bama. I don't want Bama to be in the playoffs, but that 5.5 is telling me it might be better to put some money on Bama right now because that is the Devil's number. That is, I mean, it is extremely hard to find a game where there is a 5.5 point favorite in college football and the favorite won. It is, for some reason, you see that number, the underdog almost always wins. I think it's something like a 98% win rate or
Holy
something like that.
shit.
Yeah, it is ridiculous with that spread.
That's fucking. That's crazy.
It's called the
That's
Devil's number
literally
for a reason.
yeah.
5 and 5.5. Just always bet the underdog because you will have a very, very high chance of winning.
Well, I don't know what the spread was earlier in the week, but I actually have a parlay with Georgia winning pretty big stake too. So hopefully they can pull it out, man. I got Georgia, Texas, and Michigan. So we'll see, man. It's going to be a crazy week. I hope that Georgia can pull it off. Alabama literally was 4th and 30 against Auburn. They almost lost. I hope that Georgia can just come out and get a big score early on, set the tone for the game, and pull it out.
I hope so too, man. But Bama's also undefeated against Georgia in the SEC title game. So, yeah. To the AAC, number 22 Tulane and SMU will be playing. Tulane is a 3.5 point favorite in this game. Tulane obviously been really, really good this year. Their only loss, obviously, to a number 20 at the time, Ole Miss team. They've been, struggling at parts of the season. They've been good at the early parts and later parts of the season. I think Tulane's going to win this here. I think it's going to be a really, really close game. I could see SMU pulling this game off as well. I really can see them winning this game. It is a winnable game for them. That said, I think Tulane's offense will be just enough and do just enough to help them win this AAC title for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I like Tulane in this matchup. They've had a pretty solid year. Again, another team that's kind of floated around the top 25.
To the Sun Belt we go. We have Troy taking on App State. Troy, a 5.5 point favorite in this game. You know what that means. bet App State right now if you want it. Look, Troy, I kind of did some research on them on both these teams. Because we don't talk about Sun Belt ever because it's the Sun Belt and no one ever gets ranked there. But Troy's been actually pretty good this year. Statistically speaking, they have been Obviously they're one of the best teams in the Sun Belt. Um, they've been, their quarterback has been pretty good. He's got 61% completion percentage. He has a very low interception rate. He's only thrown 5 picks this year. Um, you know, they have a pretty decent running back as well. That said, App State just not that great. I mean, they've lost to a lot of teams that they probably should have beaten this year. Um, and then they've beaten some pretty decent teams in that conference. But Troy, I think, is going to win this game. But it's that devil's number, man. Part of me wants to say App State's just going to win this game because of that.
Yeah, I don't even know much about Troy and App State. They're always going to be known for the Michigan upset. So I'll probably roll with App State here just because I don't really know too much about either of these teams. And they're probably the more well-known school. But I guess Troy's been the better team this year if they're favored. So I'll still roll App State, though.
Yeah, Troy's 10-2 coming into this game, and App State's 8-4. So pretty big, record difference between those two. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty close game, I think. Low scoring probably, but maybe it could be very high scoring. I don't know. And lastly, the ACC championships on Saturday night. Will be number 4 Florida taking on number 14 Louisville. Florida State just a 1.5-point favorite in this game. And that line's been moving closer and closer towards Louisville being favorited this week. I think it opened at Florida State at 3.5, and now it's gone down to 1.5. So it's going to be close, I think. Florida State doesn't have Jordan Travis, though. I could see Louisville pulling off the upset because of that, but I think Louisville, they have been good, but they're a little bit fraudulent. I think. I mean, obviously they blew a good chance to beat in-state rival last week against Kentucky and just fell short. But I think this is gonna be a really close game, pretty high scoring game. But yeah, man, I think Louisville could pull off the upset here. I want Florida State to win this, but no matter who wins of this, I mean, we'll get into it in a minute, but if Florida State loses, there's going to be a lot of chaos in the playoffs.
Yeah, I saw some crazy take today. Like the guy was saying, even if Florida State wins, they shouldn't even be considered. They shouldn't be considered for the college football playoff because they're going to be the worst team. But it's like just because their quarterback's out hurt doesn't mean they should be disqualified from making the college football playoffs. But I do think they are going to win, but it's going to be super close. I don't trust Louisville. They've lost to some bad teams this year.
Yeah, I can't trust them either. But that said, with that take that guy that you saw, he's not entirely wrong because I've done some research on it. And I've seen some things as well. Out of the other teams in the top 7, Florida State at the bare minimum would be a 15-point dog to every single team in that top 7.
Jeez.
They would be at minimum a 15-point dog, and it changes obviously from team to team. I think Georgia was the biggest spread. I think it was like a 24-point underdog to Georgia, and then Michigan was like a 20-point or 20.5, something like that. Their best chance would actually be against Texas, and that's a 15 points favorite in Texas there. But yeah, that wraps up your conference championship games for this week. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs because a lot can change this weekend. If Georgia loses, for example, Michigan will be number 1 facing whoever's at number 4. Bama's going to be in. It's probably going to end up being then, Michigan versus Bama in the first round versus whoever 2 and 3 ends up being. Oregon, I think, can make it in. Well, they will make it in if they beat Washington. Um, Texas has an outside chance. That said, if there's a lot of chaos this week and basically every single favorite loses in the top four, but Texas wins, Texas obviously makes the playoffs. Texas has to run the score up on Oklahoma State if they even want to have a chance. I think realistically to get into the playoffs. But yeah, it's going to be crazy. If I think what we could see is if Florida State loses and Washington loses, well, we could see Texas make that jump into the playoffs too. What do you think could possibly happen here, man? What's your mind
Yeah,
thinking?
I've seen so many different scenarios. Like Florida State, if they win or lose, they're going to be knocked out. I've seen Booger McFarland talking about if Alabama wins, they're still not going to get in because Texas still has the win over Alabama and um, would still remain ahead of Alabama. So it would be Michigan, uh, Florida State, Oregon, and then Texas as the Final Four. Um, I've seen people say that even if Georgia loses, they'll still be in the top four. There's just a lot of different scenarios, and I think the only one that is pretty much certain, I mean, be a complete shock if it happened, would be if Michigan lost. But I think Michigan right now is like the only team that is pretty comfortable saying that they're going to be in. Everyone else, though, man, I mean, it's going to be tough. I would say though, too, Washington, if they win the game against Oregon, they're for sure a lock. Uh, but everyone else, man, and then of course if Georgia wins, they'll be a lock. But they got a tough game, so it's going to be a crazy set of scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that can change because of this week, and there's a ton of implications. But I mean, I think Oregon's gonna win, and that's just gonna throw a wrench in it because if Georgia, Michigan, and Oregon win, and Florida State loses, who gets that number four spot? That's the real question. Does Washington get that four spot, or does Texas, if they win, get that four spot instead? Um, because I think, I mean, what looks better, a non-conference champion Washington that's 12-1 versus a conference champion Texas, that's 12-1. I think at that point you would have to put Texas in, right?
I think they would. I think because it would be the you know because Washington lost their game and Texas had won. Especially if Texas wins by more than two touchdowns, I think they'd put Texas in.
Yeah. Also, if I saw some stuff where it was like even if Georgia loses, they could still make that number four spot. And you could see Bama at 3 and Georgia at 4. Sort of scenario, which would be insane.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too. Where it could be like a Michigan, Bama, Georgia, and like Oregon in the top four, and then Florida State's out.
Right. And I mean, it's all hinging on really a lot if Florida State loses. All these scenarios, if Florida State wins, I think they're locked in. I know they're going to be huge underdogs to whoever they face, but that said, okay, so imagine a scenario. Okay, Oregon wins, Florida State wins. Does Oregon go to 4 and Florida State to 3 in that case, or do you think Oregon would jump up to 3?
I think that they would put Oregon at 3. I think because that would be such an impressive win to beat number 3 Washington. I think that they would put Oregon ahead of Florida State.
I'm just trying to find the easiest path for Michigan to get at least to the championship this year. So I really would hope Florida State gets bumped up to 3 in that case. But I do think realistically, Oregon would have the much more impressive win over Florida State and jump them, even though Florida State would be still undefeated at that point. They just don't have the resume that Oregon does. But there's a ton that can happen. Even OSU still technically has an outside shot at, if there's a ton of chaos this this week, OSU could actually end up slipping back in to the playoffs, which is crazy to think about. But there are some very specific scenarios where OSU could get themselves back into the playoffs, like they did last year.
Yeah, they're going to need like all the favorites to lose.
Yeah, they basically need Bama to win, uh, Iowa to win, uh, Washington or Oregon. Or Washington or Oregon, it doesn't really matter for them who wins that one. Texas to lose, though.
Florida State to lose.
Florida State to lose. They need. Yeah, they
They
need.
basically need everyone to lose.
Yeah. They gotta be huge Bama fans, huge Iowa fans, huge Louisville fans, and then for Washington, Oregon, it doesn't matter, right? Because either way, one of those two teams is gonna be in. Um, and I've also seen scenarios too where Washington and Oregon both get in.
Yeah, like I said, if Oregon beats Washington and Bama loses, Texas loses, Florida State loses, I mean Washington might be that fourth team right there.
Yeah, I think either way we're looking at a Michigan versus Oregon. At least if Oregon wins, we'll have a Michigan versus Oregon uh, game there. Unless something happens and Bama wins, then Michigan will be at number one, and a whole bunch of different chaos goes out from there. But it's more than likely looking like a Big Ten versus Pac-12 before the Pac-12 dissolves into oblivion after this year. It's gonna be really really interesting for sure. But yeah, lots to unfold, but very very exciting for sure. Um, so yeah, that's gonna wrap up college football. We're gonna get into some power rankings for the NHL and the NBA here. We'll start off with the NBA, Mike. So take it away.
All right, so if you guys are new here to the podcast, or you haven't seen the episode with the power rankings, this is, I believe, our second time doing this. We're doing these like every couple weeks here, just so we have a little bit more data to go on, and the teams are actually changing every week. Andrew has his own list, and I just go on NBA.com and look at their list here. So I'm going to be going through the top 10 here for the NBA, but I want to also just shout out, man, the Detroit Pistons. What a crazy, crazy season. I mean, 15 straight losses. They took no nut November and made it into no win November. Like, these guys, if they lose tonight to the New York Knicks, they will have lost every game in November, bro. And then another stat here that I wanted to bring up before we get into the power rankings. In the 2023 calendar year, the Detroit Lions are 10-3. The Detroit Pistons are 9-59. So the Lions have more wins in the 2023 calendar year than the Pistons, and they've played like 60 less games.
That's insane.
Yeah. The Pistons are absolute garbage. And, man, I wouldn't blame Cade right now if he asked for a trade because, I mean, he's putting up numbers. It's just nothing is translating. It's ridiculous. But with that, we'll hop into the actual good teams in the power rankings. So, at number 10 here, the team I just mentioned, they were 8 last week. That was the New York Knicks, 9-7. They're bordering on top 10 offensive rating and top 5 defensive rating. Jalen Brunson's been doing very well for them. Julius Randle could pick it up a little bit, but overall they've been pretty solid this year, pretty middle of the road to a little bit above average team. I think they're fine there at number 10. Number 9 here, 11-6. They were 13 last week. The Phoenix Suns. They have a great offense, top 5 offense, but they are 18th for defensive ratings. So definitely need to work on that defense. They have the big scorers, Durant, Booker, are still doing their things. Bradley Beal's been out hurt, so that's been definitely taken away from even more on the offensive end of the ball. But Booker and KD both have been balling this year, and I think that they'll be just all right. I think that they'll move up as the year goes along. I could see them being in the top 5 by the end of the year. Number 8 here, we have the Sacramento Kings, also 9-6 record. They were number 7. Not really that impressive offensive and defensive ratings, 12 and 17th, and their net ratings barely in the positive. So they've definitely been squeaking out some gritty wins. And I really like their team. I like De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray. I think can be a solid contributor as well. They got a lot of good young pieces as well as some veterans on their team. I think the Kings will definitely make the playoffs, and I think they're still alive too as well in the in-season tournament. Number 7 here, jumping up 10 spots here, the Orlando Magic, and they have been on fire, man. So they're 12-5. They're one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference right now, and their offensive ratings smack dab in the middle at 15, but their defense, man, is what's carrying them. The number 3 rated defense. They've just been clicking, man. Their entire team: Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs. All of them have just been playing really good lately, and the Magic are kind of doing what the Pistons should have been doing this year, where their young core started to pop off and started getting some wins. So the Magic seem to have been figuring it out this year, which is good because I like the Magic. They've been one of the worst teams in the league the last 5-6 seasons. So it says right here, last season the Magic were 1-12 in the second games of back-to-backs, the worst of it, such stretch of any mark for any team in the last 6 years, and they're 2-1 this season, so they're definitely doing better on their back-to-backs and just picking up some solid wins. Number 6 here, also staying at 6, they were last week, is the Milwaukee Bucks. Really good on offense, number 7, but the defense is 20th right now, so they're scoring a lot of points, but also giving up a lot of points, which I kind of figured with Dame coming over, really good on offense, but not really too good of a defensive player. So you take the hit there. Giannis and Brook Lopez is pretty much carrying this defense. I think that Milwaukee's going to be just fine. They're going to be one of the top 4 in the Eastern Conference here.
Yeah, I mean, look,
So yeah.
if the Bucks have been pretty impressive this year, but I don't think everything that they've did before the season has really meshed yet between Giannis
And Dame,
and Dame. Yeah, they haven't really been meshing well. But that said, they're still putting up W's, and that's at the end of the day all that matters with them. But just something's just not 100% clicking with those two, man.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, moving here into number 5, speaking about a team that's been winning a lot of games recently, man, similar to the Orlando Magic, the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that has been one of the poverty teams the last few seasons here, and I love their young core. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's an MVP candidate, man. I love his game. He is one of the best players in the NBA. Chet Holmgren right now and Vic are the 2 favorites for Rookie of the Year. Chet's been putting up some crazy stat lines, and they also have a lot of good other young role players like Jalen Williams, Lou Dort. They have the whole Josh Giddey situation going on right now, which sucks because he was another really good player that was going to be built for their future. But if the investigation goes south, then they might have to say goodbye to him because some reports are saying that she lied about her age and that he was not in the wrong, and other reports are now saying that her and her family are refusing to cooperate with authorities. So are they being paid off? Who knows? So we'll have to see, but it's good that this news really isn't affecting them. There was also reports saying that the Thunder had known about this before it even broke to the media, so and they said they didn't really have much concern. So maybe they know a little bit more than we do. But the Thunder, man, they have a lot of hoopers on that team, and they have tons of draft picks. They built uh, tons of draft capital for the future, so they're going to be a crazy team to look forward to. They have a ton of potential in the next 3 years or so to be the best team in basketball. But speaking about the best team, at least for last year, who won the championship, number 4, the Denver Nuggets. They were also 4 last week. Both 10-10 on offense and defense, so they're above average, but they're not really doing as well as I thought they would. Jokic has still been doing really well this year, um, and they've had some decent help from the role players this year. I saw recently Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan had a big game with a lot of players being out hurt. Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. both doing their thing. So you got to remember too that Jamal Murray's been out for the last 2 months or so
Yeah, that's
with
right. That's right.
injury. I'm just now seeing that. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. So they're still doing pretty well, even with their second best player on the team being out. So they've had some people step up and still one of the better teams in the league. Number 3 here, also staying at number 3 is the Philadelphia 76ers, 11-5 record, offensive rating, third in the league. So Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid are both having crazy offensive performances. Defense is 13th, so they're still above average, but definitely would look to be a little bit better in that category there. They are looking for Embiid and Maxey, like I said, to kind of carry this team. They have a decent amount of role players as well that can fit and do their different jobs around here. But Philadelphia definitely overachieving so far, at least for this season. I think with the whole Harden drama situation, people thought that they would take a step back, maybe be one of the last playoff teams or maybe like middle of the road, but they're looking like a top 3 seed again. So Philly's looking pretty good. Coming in at number 2, another very surprising team in the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have been just absolutely killing teams on defense. They're number 2 in the league on defense. Shout out Rudy Gobert. He's been doing his thing. And Anthony Edwards, man, one of my favorite young players in the league. He is similar to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he's got MVP potential in this league. He is great. Karl Anthony Towns is doing good. And again, another team that has some pretty underrated role players. I really like what Minnesota is doing right now because they always feel like they have a lot of good young talent and then never could put it together. But this year they're finally starting to get some wins, and a lot of their younger players are taking that next leap up in their game. But coming in at number 1, I believe were number 1 last power rankings video we did 2 weeks ago, and that's the Boston Celtics. 13-4, 8th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating. They have just been, that team this year. They have been as good as ever. I think they're probably going to end up with the 1 seed. I would have said them or Milwaukee, but it looks like with Milwaukee coming off a slow start that Boston's going to run away with the East right now. And Drew Holiday, what a pickup for him in the offseason. Same with Kristaps Porzingis. He's been hooping. And Tatum and Brown are both been doing super solid as well. Right now it's looking like the Celtics are the top team in the NBA. So do you have any thoughts before we move on?
I pretty much agree with this list. I mean, it's very solid, well put together. No, I got no really other thoughts here. You know, I still think the Sixers are one of the best teams right now in the league. But defensively, they got to really tighten some things up. But offensively they're still extremely productive. So um, I think they're still my favorite to actually win the championship right now.
Yeah, they definitely got a good chance. I think anyone in this top group, I would say I like Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and Orlando what they've been doing this year, but I still think they're pretty young and they're not gonna be able to have that playoff experience. They really don't have any playoff experience, any of those teams. So if they do make it, I don't think they'll be in the championship hunt. I think this year Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, and then in the West, Denver, Phoenix. Uh, the Lakers always have a chance. Sacramento, I think, will be another team that could contend this year. They had a pretty good playoff last year. They lost to the Warriors. They put up a 7-game series against the Warriors. I mean, that was pretty impressive. So, yeah,
Yeah, I look, OKC's built for the future, man. They're really good this year, and next year, they got so many draft picks coming up over the next few years, man. They're gonna be really good the next few years, I think.
yeah, man, they have like it's insane. They probably, I think it said they have like 30 picks over the next like 7 drafts. Like it's insane the amount of picks they stockpiled because they traded away. They traded away Russell Westbrook and Paul George. That's where the majority of them were coming from.
Yeah, yeah, no, really, really good, future for them for sure. So that's your NBA power ranking. So now we're gonna head on over to the NHL, and this is again my own power rankings, not anyone else's, not NHL.com's or whatever. But yeah, so we're gonna get into it here at number 10. I have the Winnipeg Jets. Their last 10, they're 7-3-0. They're on a 2-game losing streak right now, but they've been playing some pretty decent hockey really all year. They haven't been anything spectacular, but pretty damn good so far. At number 9, I have Florida. Over their last 10, they've been 6-3-1. They're on a 1-game losing streak right now. I believe it was last night they lost. They've been on and off really all year so far. But when they're playing, well, when they're on, they're on. They're one of the best teams on both sides of the puck, especially offensively. They're very, very productive. But then once they get into these lulls where they can't win, they just, they can't score at all. It's really weird, how their first quarter of the season's gone, and we are at like the first quarter mark. Everyone's played at least 20 games now, so yeah. At number 8, I have Carolina. They're 7-3-0. They're on a two in their last 10. They're on a 2-game win streak right now. They started off pretty slow to start the year, but they've come back. I believe they're sitting second in the Metro right now. They're very, very, very good as of late. Hopefully they can keep it up. I don't think right now they're going to catch the Rangers in their division, who are later on in this list, but very, very solidly in that second spot in the Metro, which is, it's all but one team in that division right now is over 500. Same goes for the Atlantic division. Um, it just tells you how tight that playoff battle is going to, that wild card battle really is going to be. But yeah, moving on to number 7, I have Dallas. They're 6-3-1 over their last 10. They're on a 1-game win streak right now. They're pretty inconsistent at times. To be fair though, their last 10 has been a very, very tough schedule. They just snapped, like, I think it was a 3-game losing streak. But that said, they've hit a rough patch in terms of their schedule. A lot of tough teams in their division and in their conference in general that they've had to play, and some Eastern Conference teams that are really good this year too. But they've been very good so far to start the year. Moving on to number 6 is Vancouver. In their last 10, they're 5-5-0. They're on a one-game win streak right now. Brock Besser leads the league in goals at 17. I don't think that's going to keep up. He's got 17 goals in 23 games. He's got 26 points, so he's just over a point per game right now. But I don't think he's going to stay at that goal-leading pace for right now. But he's at 17, which is pretty impressive. And then Miller and Hughes, they're number 2 and number 3 respectively in points for them. Vancouver's I think they're sitting third in the Pacific right now. I'd have to double check that, but they've been playing really good. Like I said, they're 5-5 in their last 10, so it's not the best, but pretty good still. At number 5. Last time I had them at number 2, I believe, in my rankings, but they're at number 5 now, is Las Vegas. Over their last 10, they're 3-4-3. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They've hit a very rough patch, and they've been losing to some pretty not so good teams, and beating some bad teams, and then losing to good teams, and losing also to bad teams. So they just had a really, really rough patch lately. But lots of close games. They've had, obviously, 3 losses in overtime over their last 10. And then the other, 4 regular time losses have all been either 1 or 2 points. But they've beat up on San Jose, which, I know that feels bad for you.
Yep. Man, San Jose and the Pistons one and the same this year.
Yeah, moving up to number 4, is Colorado. Their last 10, they're 7-3-0, but they're on a 4-game win streak right now. Very impressive as of very late. Makar leads the league in assists at 26. They've been very, very good. All year. They're leading their division. What a shock there. But they haven't been nearly as good as some of these teams that are ahead of them still. Like Boston and LA. At number 3, I have Boston. They're 5-3-2 over the last 10. They're on a 3-game losing streak now, and they have some losses, some bad teams. They've lost to Detroit in here once or twice in this streak. And at one point, Detroit was the only team to beat Boston in regulation, and now. Then they lost to New York, and now it's just kind of the losses have been piling on lately. They're still on top of the Atlantic Division right now, but they're barely holding on to it because Florida's closing in. So's Toronto and Detroit. At number 2, I have LA. They're 7-2-1 over the last 10. They're on a 1-game losing streak, but they were off. I think that's coming off of a 3 or 4-game win streak for them. They've been playing really, really well. Special teams for them has been really good. They're top 10 on the power play, and they lead the league on the penalty kill at 89.4%. Really good special teams in LA. They were really good on them last year, and this year they've improved on it, especially the penalty kill. And then at number 1, I have the New York Rangers. They're 8-2-0 over their last 10. They're on a 1-game win streak right now. They just beat Detroit last night. And man, they have been killing it. Really all season. They've been very, very productive. They're one of the most productive teams in the league. Nothing too flashy, but they get the job done against bad teams. And then they play really good, really, really well against a lot of these good teams as well. Beating Detroit last night, obviously, big boost to them because Detroit, I think, is a playoff team. But, yeah, I got the Rangers at number 1 right now at the quarter mark.
Looking pretty solid, man. Rangers right now looking like the best team. Boston's falling off a little bit, but overall still pretty similar, I feel like, to what I was expecting.
Yeah, I mean, New York's on top of the league right now in terms of points. They're 16-4-1 right now. Just really, really good. Um, you know, but there's a lot of teams right now that have been very unimpressive, and then some teams that have been very, very impressive. Um, well, actually, I take back what I said earlier about every team has played 20 games. Ottawa's only played 17, which is very
Uh,
weird. Um, I don't know what's going on with their schedule, but they've played very few games compared to everyone else. Um, I yeah, very weird. Um, but there's a lot in the NHL right now going on. I mean, you have a three-way tie for third place in the Atlantic Division. I mean, between Toronto, Detroit, and Tampa right now, just crazy. Um, how tight this Eastern Conference is. I mean, you only have two teams under 500 in the Eastern Conference, and you have seven in the Western Conference that are under 500 right now. And Arizona is not one of them, surprisingly.
yeah.
But that's gonna do it for us. Um, yeah, a lot happened in this episode. We had, a ton to talk about. Tuesday, we're gonna review conference championship games. We're gonna review NFL, obviously, and we'll try and incorporate some other things as well. Um, I think obviously this will be a good week to or next week would be a good time to discuss the coaching carousel in college football. Um, and yeah, so with that said, guys, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know, hey, we want to see more NBA content. We want to see more NHL content, more MLB content. Let us know. We're willing to change things up. Um, we're gonna obviously as college football winds down, there's gonna be a lot of changes with how the podcast runs, which is gonna open up a lot more time for really every other sport. And as the NHL and NBA seasons start to get a lot hotter now, we'll go over, of course, the NBA in-season tournament, which is stupid in my opinion, but yeah, we'll go over that when that's over, of course. So, yep. So, anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Tuesday.